Today, we are going to learn how can you round decimals. Rounding replaces one number with another number that tells about how many or about how much. We need to round 2 and 36 hundredths to the nearest tenth. Is 2 and 36 hundredths closer to 2 and 3 tenths or 2 and 4 tenths? Well, if we're going to look at our number line right here, I'm going to highlight it in yellow. We have 2 and 3 tenths right here, and we have 2 and 4 tenths right here. And we are going to round 2 and 36 hundredths. If we look to see what is halfway, it is 2 and 35 hundredths. 2 and 36 hundredths is right next to it. So if we look at the number line, we can see it is close to 2 and 4 tenths. Another way that you can do it is to always underline the place that we're rounding. So we're going to find the place that we're rounding, which is our tenths place. I'm going to go look at step 1 and highlight the 3. So here's our tenths place. Now we're going to look to the right of the tenths place. And if the number to the right, that's the one with the power, if it's 5 or more, then our underlined number is going to go up 1 digit. If it is 4 or less, it's going to stay the same, or as we say, let it rest. So if we look at step 2, it says if the digit is, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to delete that. Here we go. If the digit is 5 or greater, we add 1 to the rounding digit. That's the one we underlined. But if the digit is less than 5, then we leave the rounding digit alone. Since 6 is greater than 5, then we're going to add 1 more to the 3, and it will round up to 2 and 4 tenths. Let's look at the convince me at the bottom. It says, Carrie said 448 rounds to 500 because 448 rounds to 450 and 450 rounds to 500. Is she correct? Explain using the number line. So here is 448. I'm going to write that number right here, 448. We want to know if it rounds to 500. So we're going to underline our hundreds place, and then we're going to look to the right. Since the digit is less than 5, she is incorrect. It is actually closer to 400, and you can see that on the number line. She is correct in the fact that, yes, 448 rounds to 450. That would be the tens place, but it is not asking for the tens place. It is asking for the hundreds place, so she is incorrect. Let's take a moment and look at another example. It says round 3 and 2 tenths to the nearest whole number. So if we're looking at a whole number, that would be our number in our ones place. So we want to know, is 3 and 2 tenths closer to 3 or closer to 4? So we're going to draw a number line, which they did for us, and I'm going to highlight our whole numbers in yellow. We've got our 3 and our 4. We're looking at 3 and 2 tenths, which is right here. You can see that it's closer to 3. If we were going to write it out and underline, which is the strategy I would like you to use. So, oops, I'm going to make this a pen so it's easier to see. So we have 3 and 2 tenths. For going to round to the nearest whole number, we're going to underline the whole number, and we're going to look to the right. Since the 2 is 4 or less, we're going to let the 3 rest, and it's going to very easily round to 3, not to 4. All right, let's go to our guided practice. Do you understand? To round 74 and 58 hundredths to the nearest tenth, which digit do you look at? What is 74 and 58 hundredths rounded to the nearest tenth? All right, so we're going to write this down right here. We have 74 and 58 hundredths, okay? And if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, we're going to underline the tenths place, which is our 5, and the digit that we're going to look at would be the 8, because that's the one to the right of it. So since the 8 is greater than 5, then the 5 is going to move up to a 6, and 74 and 58 hundredths is going to round to 74.8. 6 because we're going to change that underlined number up 1. All right, let's look at number 2. A car rental service charges customers for the number of miles they travel, rounded to the nearest whole mile. So that would be the nearest whole number. George travels 40 8/10 of a mile. For how many miles will he be charged? Explained. Okay, so we have 40 8/10. If we're rounding to the nearest whole number, we're rounding to the ones place. We're going to look to the right. Well, that 0 is going to go up to a 1 since 8 is greater than 5. So he will actually be charged for 41 miles. And we know that because 40.8 or 40 8/10 rounds to 41 miles. Let's do numbers 3 through 10 together. I'm going to write them down below, so just follow along. So I'm going to start with number 3 right here, and we have 16 and 5/10. So we have to round each number to the place of the underlined digit. So if we have 16 and 5/10, the underlined digit, if I'm looking at this number right here, is a 6. So we're rounding to the ones place. We're going to look to the right. So is it going to stay a 6 or go up to a 7? Well, since the number that we're pointing to is 5 or more, it's going to go up to a 7, so it's just going to round to 17. All right, let's look at number 5. So we have 1 and 32/100. So I'm going to write it right here. We have 1 and 32/100. The 3 is underlined, which is our tenths place. So we are going to look to the right. Since the number to the right is less than 5, it's just going to stay as a 3. So it's going to round to 1 and 3/10. All right, let's look at number 7, which is right here. 1 and 652 thousandths. So I'm going to write it right here. I'm going to write the rest of them on the next page. So we have 1 and 652 thousandths. You can just write it in your book. So I'm looking at the underlined digit, and it is the 5. Well, the 5 is in the hundredths place because we have our 6 is in the tenths, 5 is in the hundredths, 2 is in the thousandths. We're going to look to our right. Since the 2 is less than 5, the 2 drops off. So this one is going to round to 1 and 65 hundredths. This would be a great time to pause the video and see if you can do numbers 9, 4, 6, 8, and 10 on your own, and then you can check your work with mine. Make sure that you're reading the decimals correctly and that you're taking your time. I'm going to finish the last few problems on this whiteboard, but you can do it right on your page 37. So the next problem that we have, I'm just going to go down. So we have number 9, and we have 80,547 and 645 thousandths. I'm going to underline the digit that's underlined in your book, which is the 4 in the decimal place, which would be 400ths. So we're rounding to the nearest hundredths place. So to decide whether it's going to stay a 4 or go up to a 5, I'm going to look to the right. And if it's 5 or more, we raise the score, which it is because it's a 5. So that 4 is going to now be pushed up to a 5. So if I'm going to round it, I'm going to keep the whole number. So we have 80,547 and 65 hundredths because that 4 is going to go up to a 5. All right, let's look at number 4. So number 4, we have 56 and 1/10. And we're rounding the 6, which is in the ones place. So I'm going to look over to the right. And since the number is less than 5, we're just going to have, it's just going to round to 56. Now we're going to go to our next number, which is number 6. So we have 42 and 78 hundredths. We are rounding to the nearest tenths. I'm going to look to the right. Since the 8 is greater than a 5, my 7 is going to turn into an 8. So that's going to round to 42, and now I'm turning my 7 into an 8, so 8/10. Don't forget that after the underlined digit, you don't add any more digits. Okay? So we have 2 more. Number 8, we have 582 and 4 hundredths. This one we're rounding to the nearest tenths. I'm going to look to my right. Since it is less than 5, so we're going to let it rest. So it's just going to stay a 0. And if I'm rounding this, I'm going to still keep my whole number, which is 582. The 0 is going to stay a 0. You can put 0.0 if you want, or you could just leave 582. And my last number, which is a big one, we have 135,701 and 949 thousandths. All right, that's a big number. Let's underline the digit in our tenths place because that is what is underlined in your book. We're going to look to the right. Since the number is 4 or less, we're going to let it rest. So I'm going to write it underneath because I just don't have enough room. We're going to write the whole number, 135,701. And since it's going to stay a 9, we're just going to leave it at 9. 9/10. We are not adding the other 2 digits because after the underlined digit, we drop the other ones. All right, you are going to do the rest of the problems on this page, 11 through 18, and then go on to the back and see if you can do problem 20. When you are finished, come back so we can see what you're doing and let me know, and I will put you with a partner to work through the problems, make sure you have the same answers, and to do some more challenging work. All right, I'll see you soon.